All right, so this is a Chinese woofer. Again, there's nothing wrong with China. Just sometimes when you have China design and execute on their own, sometimes they cut corners that you wouldn't cut. So first off would be this foam gasket. This kind of went out with the 90s. People used to get away with this, you know, with like a stamped steel frame. This cone is fine. There's nothing wrong with this cone. It is pretty stiff, which in this case works against it. I did a little teal small. So, I mean, I know according to, what is it, Kicker, that video or whatever, anything below 40 hertz is worthless. So, but anyways, the FS isn't quite low enough to really do what you want it to do. Now this frame, killer. That's the 694, I think is the tool name. 12 spoke frame. It was first tooled up by Eminence for their stuff, and then because I remember one time I was having to try to track them down, and I asked Eminence if they had, and they said, well, we paid tooling on that, but then they never yelled at anybody. Shit, where'd that woofer go? They never yelled at anybody, and so the tooling just became, you know, like open, sort of like the invention of, oh, there it is, aspirin, you know, because they didn't trademark the name or whatever. Anyways, I sidetracked. Oh, I did want to remember something about Kevlar. EMF guy, sorry I don't know your name, I've never met you. He mentioned something about Kevlar in the cone, and only Kevlar is yellow. Technically, that is correct. There are several versions of fibers, weaves, that are in the what's called Aramid fiber family. One of them is trademark name is Nomex, which is used in fire suits like race car drivers, firefighters, things like that. It's also used in spiders, and that's one of the reasons why people like it, because it's fireproof. I remember Corey Dean from SPL Audio said that that's the only thing he buys, so his spiders never catch fire. I was like, dude, if you're catching woofers on fire, you're doing it wrong. So, but that, you know, Corey Dean is whatever. He's a good builder. I'm sure he is. I don't agree that he uses CA for everything, but, you know, he's one of those, what do you call them? Sundown guys. He gets all the parts from Jacob and all that stuff in it. And he likes to charge a lot. So, but that's fine. You know, whatever. He thinks highly of himself. I think that's what the point I was trying to make. Anyway, so there are several Aramid fibers. Nomex is one of them. Kevlar is another one. Again, these are all sort of the same product. It's just when you say Nomex, that's a brand name, right? Just like if, you know, what's the difference between C&H, right, sugar, and what's a national chain, Albertsons or Kroger sugar? Nothing, because they both come from the same source. It's just sugar. So is Kevlar only yellow? Yes, if you're going to call it Kevlar. If you're just going to call it an Aramid fiber, then it, you know, it can be any color you want, because it's just a fiber. But anyways, you guys can read the fucking patent on that stuff. There's a difference between a patent and a trademark. That's what I'm trying to explain. Anyways, back to this one. Short coil. The biggest problem that I had with this thing was this clamp ring. So they clamped here on it's a 7.5 inch spider landing, which this is fine. This looks really pretty. The problem is right there. So I noticed that these leads stuck up. They're like this. See, I had them bent. They were like this. This is how they come. And so the problem I saw immediately was that the cone would slap on that. So I'm like, okay, let me see if I can adjust this. And then when you pull it taut, or, you know, even do anything right there, they're going to short. So, and you'd be surprised how far a lot of products make it and have defects like that, or, you know, I don't want to say misengineered, but just oversights. So I remember one of the Lightning audio subs that I first got used. It was the X1, and it was a bitch to get these fucking bolts off, because Tilo would put either Loctite or CA on the fucking threads. And so when you do that, you might as well just grind it off. You're not getting it out. But anyways, I got the thing off, and Tilo had actually, this was on the LA Storm frame. The problem is that frame is really short on the lower half and so it really needs to be opened wide and then elevated. The other thing that it needs is on the spider landing, it needs to be elevated as well, because otherwise when it comes down, and the particular spiders that Tilo was using were sewn into the spider. So number one, you never want to compromise the spider, right? You never want to put holes in it, which is exactly what this does. I don't know if you can see that. There we go. So that actually goes through, and you can see the tinsel leads on the bottom. So the problem with that is that when you hit that downstroke, it was arcing right there. And so Tilo, to fix this, he would put a piece of Kapton right there just to not make it short out. And then he did the same thing on this woofer. This is the Sunfire True Sub. And there were some other things. I mean, I can go on complaining about all that stuff. It's whatever. It's not that I'm any superior. I just typically I see a mistake like that, and of course I avoid it. But that's what happens when you pull apart thousands and thousands of fucking woofers. I did want to talk about, let's see. Oh, short coil. That was the other thing. So one of the things that you can do to avoid this is use a smaller spider, and that's what they did. They used a 7.5-inch spider instead of the top landing, which is a full 8-inch spider. And then the other thing to avoid over excursion is use a shorter coil. So one of the things, I didn't criticize it here on YouTube. It was on probably Facebook or something like that. But one of the upstart companies, it's also called a Me Too brand. It was Wolfram. Wolfram's getting really popular, and it's based out of here in Arizona. The guy just runs the thing out of a UPS store. I'm sure he runs it at his house, and I've heard that he even runs a shop or whatever. So, but Wolfram is just one of those brands where you go, hey, China. Again, there's nothing wrong with that, because there's a lot of equipment out there that's like that. JP, his amp, the JP, what is it? JP23. Everything from CT Sounds, everything from Crescendo, everything from Soundcubed, the Redline from DD, everything from Massive, everything from Audio Pipe. Again, it's from China. There's nothing wrong with it. But sometimes you run into a little problem like this, and it needs to be corrected. And that's why it's really dangerous sometimes to buy completed items fully built from China. So anyways, I got these samples from them, from a builder, and I wanted to tear them apart to look at them, because when I saw the specs on that, the TSPs, I was like, no, that's not going to work. So, but I do like this frame, and I do like this motor. This motor is kind of shallow. It looks like 2 3/4-inch slugs. So it's almost like a tight-gapped version of the TC9, or I should say the original TC9, which was on the Orion HCCA 10 and 12. But you have to use this coil. You can actually harvest this coil and reuse it. I think I did videos on that. It's perfectly fine. Doesn't hurt anything. But I definitely removed this, and it seems like it's a very shallow motor. So I would actually put the 4-spoke frame on here and then turn it into a quote-unquote shallow woofer. And then of course I would fix the leads as well. I think that's all I wanted to talk about for this. Oh, that's right. One more thing about Wolfram was the short coil. So Wolfram's top end line is called AG, which is of course the symbol for gold, chemical symbol for gold. So it's their top of the line. I'm sure they'll come out with a platinum, whatever is better than that. The problem with the woofer is that they use the TI frame, which there's nothing wrong with that. But the problem is that the motor is not tall enough. It is not tall enough. There's not enough slugs. There's not enough room to really justify the use of the TI frame. I'm not saying that you can't use it, because obviously they did use it, but you're going to run into excursion problems. And so the way that they avoided that was short coil. So when you cut those apart, which I have, I was reconing them for somebody, and of course I figure out a way to make them better. And the way that we did was I gave them a discount, because I took the TI frames in on trade, and then I gave them, a regular 12-spoke or a 4-spoke frame, and I built those for them. But I think it's only shouldn't go more than 50 millimeter, but it's probably just a 40 millimeter coil like this one. So this one's probably even close to 35. Nothing wrong. It's just that's what's going to limit your excursion. So, but other than that, I'm just not a fan of the Me Too brands. They're too expensive. I mean, I loved Audiobahn when it first came out, like in 01, 02. because they were affordable. Now they had like 11 series of subs, and come to find out he was moving crystal meth or drugs or whatever, and that's how he was paying for all of it. But I knew, I think it was his nephew. His nephew ran MA Audio, the Anaba group, which was also Cliff Designs. And I did some motor designs for him right before he decided to call it quits and get a real job, which was importing just accessories. There's so much more money on accessories, like the markup and things like that. And that's why my buddy Larry has been doing it for years. He started Lightning Audio, and that's when I discovered them. And I worked during the summer of '99 for Lightning Audio when they were being acquired by Rockford. And Larry's got some really great stories for that. Him and Scott Dealey. So, but I'll share more stories with that later. This is already on 11 minutes. So I love you guys. Thanks for your support. I will do some short videos here in a little bit to answer some of your questions. Thanks a lot.